Good day, everyone, and welcome to our Compliance Masterclass. I'm Ilana Stein, the Managing Director at Company Partners and your host for today's session. We are compliance specialists, experts in CIPC, SARS, TOID, and other key regulatory areas that affect South African businesses every day. Our mission is simple: to help entrepreneurs and SMEs stay compliant so they can focus on the growth with confidence. And that's exactly what today's session is all about. One of the main compliance events in 2025 has been CIPC's mass deregistration of over 500,000 companies and closed corporations due to non-compliance. This large-scale cleanup formed part of South Africa's broader commitment to improve the corporate transparency and combat financial crimes. And it seems as if it has paid off, as South Africa has officially been removed from the Financial Action Task Force. Wow, what an acronym there. Um, the grey list as from the 24th of October 2025. So today's session, we will unpack what it means for your business, why annual returns and beneficial ownership compliance are now more important than ever before, and how you can stay fully compliant at CIPC before year end. Joining me today is Zola, one of our expert business compliance advisors at Company Partners. He's guided thousands of businesses through challenges like block submissions, deregistration notices, and reinstatement cases. And he also knows exactly where most of the companies go wrong and how to fix it. I will also personally be available for the live question and answer session today about the CIPC annual returns, beneficial ownership, and CIPC registrations. So what you will learn today is why CIPC deregistered so many of these companies in 2025, how annual returns and beneficial ownership work together, some examples of simple to complex beneficial ownership structures, what non-compliance means for your company and the directors, how to correctly submit your beneficial ownership and annual returns online, and then with the beneficial ownership services, how to do it quick and easy without any stress. So just an important disclaimer before we begin, please note that this session is not a formal legal or financial advice. Our goal today is simply to help SMEs understand the CIPC compliance requirements every business must meet, and to share some insights with you in terms of how to assist thousands of South African companies with their annual returns, beneficial ownerships, and other compliance obligations. If you've got any questions during this session, please feel free to put them in the question and answer session, and we will be answering as many of that after Zola's presentation. And with that, it's my pleasure to hand over to Zola. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilana. Thank you, Ilana, and good morning, everyone joining us today. Now, as Ilana mentioned, that CIPC has removed over 500,000 companies from the active register this year alone. And while this number seems to be so shocking, what's even more concerning is that many of these companies didn't even know or realize that they were at risk. For most of the issues, it came down from the blocked annual returns caused by missing or incomplete beneficial ownership submissions. Now that South Africa, Ilana has mentioned that it has been removed from the FATF grey listing, enforcement is only getting started or stricter, not looser in any form. Also, SARS recently, in a statement, confirmed this by stating it is working closely with CIPC, and this just means that CIPC will take stricter actions for non-compliance to keep company registration clean and transparent, and also up to date in South Africa. Now, how beneficial ownership and annual returns work together. Let's start with how annual returns and beneficial ownership are connected, and why they've become one of the biggest compliance risks for businesses in South Africa. To stay active, every company must submit CIPC annual returns. This hasn't changed, but what has changed is you can't file annual returns if your beneficial ownership, or BO in short, submission is up to date, isn't up to date rather. So you'd obviously need to file your beneficial ownership before we can do annual returns. Beneficial ownership became mandatory in 2023, but many business owners missed it. Either they didn't know about it, or what it was, or they assumed that it didn't apply to them. So CIPC enforced a hard stop functionality in April 2024, blocking annual returns submissions rather. If beneficial ownership is up to date or was outstanding, obviously your company will be deregistered. So now annual returns gets blocked and your business starts the deregistration process, even if you are trading and submitting tax returns. Very important. Simple versus complex beneficial ownership structure. Next, we will have a look at simple versus complex beneficial structure. Beneficial ownership is about identifying who owns or controls 5% or more of a company, even if they're not listed or as directors or shareholders directly. In simple structure, this is easy, but it gets more complex when there are multiple directors and shareholders. The shareholders also held another or are held by another company, or the shares rather are held by another company. That also gets more complex. Or in a case where a family trust or a business partner holds shares behind the scenes. Let's simplify. Let's simplify it by looking at a few practical examples. Example number one. You have a simple beneficial ownership structure, which is a single owner or director. This scenario, we have John. John starts a small cleaning company and register in its name. He is the only director. He owns 100% shares of no other parties or entities involved. Now, the beneficial ownership outcomes for this case is that John is both the registered director and the beneficial owner. He submits his beneficial ownership form with his personal details, simple and quick. However, we go into example 2, simple beneficial ownership structure, which is multiple individuals. In this scenario, we have Lebu and Tabo. They start a stationery business together. Lebu owns 60% of the shares. Tabo owns 40%. Both are listed as directors. Now, the beneficial ownership outcomes for this scenario would be both Lebu and Tabo are beneficial owners, each above 5%. The beneficial ownership submission lists both individuals with their percentage ownership. Now, there's a scenario or example number 3, which is complex beneficial ownership structure, which is shareholding via another company. Now, in this scenario, we have Janet, who owns a holding company called A. That holding company owns 80% of a transport company called Company B. Janet is the sole director and 100% shareholder of Company A, but she is not listed in her personal capacity as a director or shareholder on Company B. Andy is the only director and has 20% shares of Company B. Now, the beneficial ownership outcomes for this scenario would be that Janet is still a beneficial owner of Company B, even though she isn't a listed director or shareholder on the company documents or share certificates of Company B. The Company B beneficial ownership forms must declare directors and shareholders of Company B, which is Andy. as well as Company A as a shareholder and trace the beneficial ownership to Janet, the natural person. So here are multiple beneficial owners through a holding structure that must be declared. Example 4, it's also a complex BO structure that involves a trust or a nominee ownership. In this scenario, a family trust called CP Family Trust owns 100% of the shares in the construction company, C. Ben and Tapua are the trustees who control the trust. Cindy is the sole director of company C. Now, in this case, beneficial ownership outcomes would be CIPC requires a director of a company C, as well as the trust and the trust details rather, and the identity of the natural persons who controls the trust. So Cindy, Ben, Tapua will be listed as the beneficial owners. So what non-compliance means for companies and its directors. If your beneficial ownership is missing or wrong or incomplete, and annual returns fall behind, here's what happens. CIPC marks your company as non-compliant with a red flag on the public register. Your company may be blocked from contracts because of these flags. Funding can be denied or delayed by investors due to missing a beneficial ownership information. You can also be flagged for audit by SARS if information doesn't match the CIPC register. The worst still is that if you're a director of a non-compliant company, you are personally liable to ensure beneficial ownership submissions are completed on time. Failure to do so may result in hefty penalties, including potential civil and criminal prosecution. In severe cases, directors may face imprisonment up to 12 months or fine of up to 1 million. Now, how to file or how to submit your beneficial ownership online? Visit the official CIPC e-service portal, log in with your registered CIPC account details, and also locate the beneficial ownership filing section, as well as the third step would obviously, you need to complete the beneficial ownership registration form. Now, you need to have all the documents ready to upload to the CIPC. Following the on-screen instruction and upload of the document when when instructed, carefully enter all required details in the desired fields like corporate details. Upload any supporting documents, copies of the ID which may not be older than 3 months, the dates on the stamp, shareholders agreement, security register, beneficial ownership register. Submit your beneficial ownership register, review the information for accuracy, submit the form, and keep a record of confirmation receipt. Now, lastly, the beneficial ownership service that are quick and easy without the stress. If you are behind, here's the good news. CIPC allows you to fix it, but only if you can act first. Now, here at Company Partners, we help many companies and businesses to streamline this process. We make beneficial ownership quick, easy, without any stress. Our easy online process allows us to complete your beneficial ownership submission without any hassle, so that we can get your annual returns up to date as soon as possible. What is very important is to complete a simple online form and upload, as I've mentioned, your ID documents that will take about 2 minutes. Our systems automate all the beneficial ownership documents. We ensure your share register and beneficial ownership documents are correct. And if we need additional information, our specialist will contact you. Once all documents are 100% correct, we'll send the mandate to you to sign. We submit your beneficial ownership correctly to CIPC and receive beneficial ownership confirmation within 3 days. We're we're also able to help you to stay compliant and stay active on CIPC. Final takeaway, stay active, stay visible. Let's recap the message from today. If your beneficial ownership isn't submitted, your annual returns cannot be filed rather. If your annual returns fall behind, your company becomes non-compliant. And if you stay non-compliant, deregistration is automatic and public. We know it can feel like it's a lot of admin until it's blocked and your funding puts your task and the status at risk, or cost, or your tender for that matter. But here's the good news: you can fix it. You can fix it easily, and we'll help you to do it. We offer free CIPC compliance check. We'll handle your beneficial ownership submission, even for complex shareholding. We'll also catch up with annual returns and confirm your company is indeed active and in good standing. Whether you're running a startup or a growing SME, this is one of the easiest steps you can take to protect your business going into 2026. Thank you again for joining us. And now we'll hand it over to the live Q&As.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Zola. Great to have you part of the team today. So let's jump into our questions. So if there's anything specific that you need more clarity on, maybe on the processes, the deadlines, the submissions, or even just the risk, please add that to the question and answer box, and we're going to take it from there. So I'm just going to give you a few seconds to maybe just put your questions in the box, and then I'll take it further from there. Great, so Zola, I'm just checking quickly from my side if there's anything specifically coming through. Let's quickly see here. A lot of AI assistant that joined this section here today. Let's quickly see if there's a question. All right, so Jonathan asked a question: for a trust, must have trustees and beneficiaries IDs be provided for beneficial ownership. So I take it that the question is that if somebody has a trust, if they then have to provide the IDs for the trustees and the beneficiaries, if you can just clarify that for us.
So, Ilana, can you please repeat that? I hear it's regarding the trust. That's a complex structure, right?
That is correct, yes. And the question is from Jonathan to ask if the IDs of the trustees and the beneficiaries need to be provided.
That is correct. The most important with regards to the trustees, because of course they are basically more in control with regards to the trust. So with the IDs needs to be provided for all the relevant parties involved.
Right. Then Jonathan also just stipulated that the trust owns the company. So Jonathan, I would be able to help you with that. So essentially, on the company, you have your directors, which are appointed, and they're usually individuals. So for them, you will require the IDs. And then because the trust is then the entity that owns the shares within the organization, therefore you will have to provide the IDs for the trustees and the beneficiaries, because that's the whole purpose of the beneficial ownership process that we go through, is they want to see at least 3 layers of people being involved in the entities that has a say on what happens within the organization or within the company. So you can see it as 3 layers that you need to tap down on, and they want to see the full transparency of who is being affected by it and how that is actually being done. Then we had a question here from Viande, sorry, it's just jumped there. Trusts that are registered with the Master of the High Court must also be registered at CIPC, or do we do the registration of trust? Do trust needs to be compliant like companies? So I would be able to answer that one for you as well. Yes, so trusts are registered with the Master of the High Court. They do not get registered at CIPC, only at the Master. You have to do beneficial ownership for trust as well. That is done with the Master of the High Court. How I see your question interlinking with Jonathan is if you've got a holding structure and it's like a little umbrella where you've got a company and underneath that company you have a trust that owns the shares in the company, then you have to do that with CIPC. But for the trust as an individual entity, that is done with the Master of the High Court. I hope that answers your question. Then the next one coming through is how often do you need to do the beneficial ownerships, as they state no expiry date. So this is done yearly. CIPC has arranged for the annual returns and the beneficial ownership to be done at the same time. So it makes it easy for you to remember whenever you have to submit your annual returns, your beneficial ownership needs to be up to date. Great. Thank you, Jonathan.
Sorry, Ilana, just to add there,
Yes.
on the also with regards to any changes that may occur within the space of that year in a company. So, for example, shares being transferred, that also needs to be updated.
Thank you, Zola. Absolutely correct. So whenever there are changes on the entity, specifically with the directors being involved or the shareholders changing, you need to update your beneficial ownership structure, and then you have to resubmit that with CIPC. Smaller changes like address changes or accountant changes does not affect your beneficial ownership. All right. Great. So I see somebody has noted some takeaways from the meeting. I'm glad that you got some insights there. Jonathan, you just asked when does one need? I'm not quite sure the full question on that. Are you asking when do you need to submit it, or okay, so you want to know when to submit annual financial statements? Okay, accounting officer. All right, so that's two different questions. So annual AFS, the abbreviation is actually for annual financial statements, and that's a specific format that CIPC might require depending on the type of annual return that you submit. Accounting officer, that's usually the person that handles your annual financial statements. On a company, you do not appoint an accounting officer as such. Only an auditor can be appointed officially on a company. Maybe, Zola, I think that might be a very good topic for our next webinar for us to cover as well.
Yes, Ilana, that's 100%. That's correct indeed. That's correct indeed.
Thank you. We're just going to leave it open for a few more seconds for other questions. I think I've received one or two on my side that I can maybe just share with you guys, and Zola, you can also answer from your side. We spoke about how often does the annual return need to be filed or beneficial ownership. That's on a yearly basis on the birthday of your entity. We've spoken about the reported changes. So Zola has touched on that, where we say each time a director or shareholder change, you need to update that. And then even if a director resigns or if the shares are being sold, you have to update your beneficial ownership section on that. A very interesting question that came through: companies that are in the process of being deregistered, do they need to submit annual returns? Absolutely. You have to submit your beneficial ownership and your annual returns up to the point where the entity is finally deregistered. So that stays your responsibility. Somebody asked a question around fines. Yes, there is. Not specifically with the beneficial ownership, but with the annual returns. And you will not be able to submit your annual returns unless your beneficial ownership has been updated with CIPC. And then there was a question, will CIPC refuse annual returns? No, they will not refuse it unless you have been formally deregistered, which means you will not be able to submit that. All right, so that's a few of the questions that came through on my side. I'm just going to go back to the chat. For the annual returns, do we need to submit either AFS or, okay, not quite sure what the rest of the question is. Jonathan, I think let's maybe take that conversation off off the air for the moment. Then we can maybe just explain to you the difference between the accounting records as well as the annual financial statement, because it all depends on the size of your entity. Another question coming through, does the annual return turnover, if the AFS turnover, I ask because the AR anniversary date is different to the AFS date. Yes, so how they work on the annual financial statement is you submit your statements for the last financial year. That's why it's also important for you to keep this up to date on a yearly basis and not fall behind 2 or 3 years with your annual returns. But once again, please feel free to maybe just reach out to us, send us your details on the chat or privately, and I can ask Zola to just connect with you afterwards. All right, except for Jonathan, I don't see too many other questions coming through. So Jonathan, we'll speak to you shortly. We will get Zola to just help you with that. Thank you, Lee, for your comment there as well. So just on a wrap up, thank you for joining us for this final compliance masterclass for the year. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this session and that it gives you some clarity on what you need to put in place for 2025, not to get deregistered, and ensure that your business are really up to date, that you've taken the right steps to stay fully compliant, especially at this time of the year. So at Company Partners, we've helped thousands of entrepreneurs navigate through the annual returns, the beneficial ownership submissions, the reinstatements, as well as some of those complex CIPC changes. So our goal is to really keep it simple, to keep your business active, protected, and ready for all the opportunities that we can see in 2026. So we can assist you with quick and accurate annual return submissions. We can ensure that your beneficial ownership is up to date and done correctly the first time. We can unblock and restore and reinstate your company if you receive some warnings. And we really offer support ongoing support to keep your business compliant all year long. So if you would like to have a free review or maybe just chat with Zola, make sure that you are in good standing with CIPC. You are most welcome to just reach out to Zola or any of our friendly consultants. What you can do is you can just simply type the word CIPC in the chat and we can get one of the advisors to contact you within the next 24 hours. We thank you once again for spending your time with us today, trusting Company Partners to make sure that you are a compliance friendly for the year of 2026, and we are here to be your compliance partner throughout 2025 and 2026. So we look forward to helping you enter this new year fully compliant, confident, and ready to grow. And with that, have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you again in 2026. Thanks, everyone.